Welcome back to another 10-minute mentor session with the lovely Tim Lloyd of Mind Maps Wellbeing. How are you, Tim?
Hi, Lisa. Very good again, thank you. How are you?
Good, I'm very good, thank you. So today, managing stress. I'm looking forward to this one because I'm not going to do much talking now. I'm just going to sit and look at you and listen. And I think I'm going to learn something today because I need to learn how to manage stress.
Okay.
So over to you.
Excellent. Yeah, so this will really be a bit of a 10-minute monologue from me then.
Yes.
I'm just going to talk through the kind of basics around how we manage stress, the kind of basic models around that, and then give it an extra flavour, kind of slightly reimagined, just to get people to think of it just slightly at a higher level.
Yeah.
Okay. So people may or may not be familiar with this model, it's kind of stress bucket analogy. To start with, that we're all walking around with this stress container or bucket that stress gets popped into from varying sources.
Yeah.
And when that container starts to get full, it spills over. And that's where we get things like our emotional reactivity. You know, like the guy who cuts me up on the way to work, then I react to him one way or another. And how we can manage the levels in our stress container through application of coping strategies, which is kind of like the tap in the bottom that drains off some of that content. Okay, I think people may be familiar with that bit already. Yeah. Okay, but I want to take this to another level and just revisualize this for people. Okay, and I love the example of the glass container that they use in primary schools with young children, and they get a glass container and they say, they put some rocks in and they say to the children, is it full? And the children, you know, as naive as they are, will go, yep, that's full. And then the teacher will get some gravel and tip the gravel in and it filters between the rocks, and then ask the question, is it full? And the children say, yeah, now it's definitely full.
Yeah.
And then the teacher gets a jug of water and pours the water in, which obviously then brings it right to the top, and that's where it spills over. Yeah. And if we view our stress in a similar way to this, if we look at what's in our stress container or stress bucket, we can probably identify it as being most of the things in there, one of these three. So the water is the residual stress. This is my day-to-day, I'm running a bit late, or this thing isn't working with IT, that guy who cut me up. That's the kind of the stuff at the surface.
Yeah.
The gravel is the stuff that maybe we should just deal with. That email I keep putting off, that phone call, you know, usually it's like I must ring my mum, you know, that sits in there. And you know, things like dealing with bills, for example, managing things like that, because or the rocks are the third part. So those bigger things which are significant stresses in our life, we can't immediately resolve. Okay, so yeah. So often we talk to people about their coping strategies, and as we're starting this morning, I was mentioning to you, managed to get out with Michael this weekend on a kayaks just before that cold snap Sunday morning. We went out on Saturday, went out for a couple of hours in our kayaks, bobbed around, not too much exertion, but it was nice. Came back to the shore. Absolutely great as a coping strategy, and it reduced our stress levels. It's like opening the tap and draining some of that off. But the tap, unfortunately, we can't get gravel or rocks through the tap. We can drain off the water. So depending on how much is already in my container through rocks and gravel, depends on how quickly that water level refills and starts to spill over again. I don't think we'll ever have an empty container. We wouldn't want one.
No.
But we've got to try and kind of work out, you know, what else can we do? Those little coping strategies are fab, but what can we do with the gravel? What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. See, for me, I think the gravel is the main problem for me, because the big things that I realise that I can't change some of them, and they're quite big and heavy. but and the water can drain, but the gravel is like, it's almost like the procrastination thing for me. And it's like you start to, oh, should do that, I'll do it later. And then you feel the guilt and all the rest of it. I don't actually know. This is why you see I need you, because I just don't know what to do with my gravel.
Okay. The key thing with the gravel is to flick it out, just get it out early. I'll give you a really good example, Lisa, of gravel that's in my stress container at the moment. My internet service provider, I'm out of contract. And it's creeping. You know how it does? It's creeping up. And every month the bill lands on my doorstep, or in my emails actually, and I say, oh, God, how much am I paying? Now, I need to do something with that, because that gravel is growing and it's becoming more of a rock. I know that this requires me to give them a call, have it out with them, and I'm sure I'd get a good deal with them. No doubt. I'd be like, I'm leaving. They'll be like, no, don't leave. Here's a good deal. But I also know that involves an hour of me on the phone listening to Ed Sheeran and such, and I just don't need that in my life. So I put it off. And then another month and another bill. You can see how then that starts to become a bigger thing. So dealing with the gravel is just to try and keep it, flicking it out before it grows. The
I've
rocks.
got lots of gravel. The gravel actually, that whole thing, what you've just said to me is the bane of my life. Call centre, phone in and being on hold when you're trying to work, and you can only phone at certain times, and it is literally, and it plays on your mind. You think, I should have done that, but it's just because it's not going to be straightforward.
And it's not enjoyable, is it? Sitting there on those hold line for, you are now number 220 in the queue, and great.
And you think you've got better use of your time, so you don't do it. But actually, these, yes, it's all making sense. Get rid of my gravel.
As I say, because it does build, it does grow left unchecked, and that gravel, and this is where the astrophysics comes in. That over time and pressure, we know what happens. Small things start to form into larger things. And start to become rocks. What can we do with the rocks? You say they're in there, they're significant. We can't just flick those out.
Smash them up.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to chip away at those rocks. We're taking the Andy Dufresne mentality, from the Shawshank Redemption. This is going to be, it might be 30-year mission, but we're going to chip away and make it gravel, so we can just scatter it out in the yard like he does, little bit at a time.
I like that.
Smart goals is the answer there. Smart goals, setting up those specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timed. This is what I want to achieve, and actually making it so that I'm going to achieve something to give me a boost first.
I like that.
If you're a to-do list person, I believe the first thing you should put on your to-do list is write a to-do list. So at least then when you finish writing your list, you can already tick one off.
Well, do you know, I have a to-do list and a done list.
Fabulous.
So I have a to-do list of things I've got to do, but then I have that next to me, but then I will write a list of what I've done, because when you look at your to-do list, and like mine is never ending, it won't ever not be a to-do list, because obviously it's a continued thing. So that doesn't motivate me. That just makes me feel I've not done anything. But if I then have a list and all the things that I've done, actually in the grand scheme of things, I've done a lot. So then I feel accomplished. And I've done that for quite a while, because somebody said to me, if you're feeling down about looking at a to-do list that doesn't ever change because of whatever, have a done list. So I did it, and I was like, I like that. That's really good.
That's a really good tip as well, because again, it just, that strengths base. Look what I am achieving and what I have achieved, and it keeps us going positively, rather than this overwhelming of what has to be done, all this gravel that you're drowning in.
It does all make sense, because sometimes when you can be going somewhere and you're in a rush and every traffic light is red and there's just cars everywhere and it's all busy and people are driving slower, or so they seem, and all this kind of thing, and you're getting more and more stressed, and you think to yourself, why am I getting in such a state just for this bit? but it isn't that. It's not that, is it? It's all the stuff behind that's put you towards that. And yeah, it definitely resonates with me for sure.
That's it,
And
because
I'm sure it will many people.
I hope so, because you know, again, it doesn't take much water when we're already full with gravel and rocks.
Yeah,
Very little water tips us over the edge with that.
yeah.
So again, it's about absolutely draining some of that off with our regular use of positive coping strategies, but also looking at actually what's building this stress that sits in my container. And just the last thing to mention, Lisa, before we run out of time, is about control. Obviously not everything, and you're kind of highlighting it there with your example, not everything is in our control, and some things we just have to try to come to acceptance of. You know, I'm not going to get there on time, and take a step back on it.
I've learned that quite a bit since I've lived in Cornwall, you know, to have taken the directly approach. You know, it's kind of like, oh, when I lived in the city in Nottingham, being late for anything was like a major, massive deal. And living down here, I would stress myself out and then get to a meeting and they'd say, they're not ready yet. And I'd be like, I nearly had a heart attack to get here in the traffic in the summer. And they're like, it's fine, directly. But no, thank you very much, Tim. I think it's fantastic advice. And I love your analogy. And I love the film Shawshank Redemption as well. And actually, I think that is a fantastic analogy. And I definitely will make sure that I look at that myself, along with my done and to-do list and everything. So thank you very much. Look forward to getting you back again to do the next session.
Great. Look forward to it.
See you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Take care. Bye. Bye.